GM. Or should I say GME? So here we are, fucking Tuesday, 14th of May. GME done its thing yesterday. Not gonna read too much into it. It's quite clear what's gonna happen. One of two paths. Either we're back and we're going for meme coin mania again and meme stock mania, or it's going to be another one of these echo bubble, quick bounces, squeeze off the lows. It doesn't have any follow through. I think it's been down and beaten down for so long, it probably has a bit more room to run. GME can go a lot higher and still not be bullish. Right, it has a long way to go to make an all-time high. And I think the number one thing you want to expect here is volatility. When GME gets moving and gets interest and hype, it tends to move pretty fast. And in both directions. Up a lot, down a lot, all over the place. So I also don't think that it really matters. A lot of people will be saying, well, if Bitcoin or crypto as a whole, let's say, because we saw some meme coin pumps after the initial move by GME. People say, oh, well, if GME fails, if it goes lower, if it sells off or whatever, then that's it. That'll be the end of the crypto pump. And yeah, if GME turns around and retraces its entire move, right? If GME retraces its entire move, memes will dump too. But it doesn't mean that there has to be a correlation between them beyond that. Right? I don't think that this entire rally, if we get one, is driven by one guy coming back and tweeting a bit. Right? That's enough to excite people with GME and AMC, and definitely some of the crypto memes like the GME coin on Solana or the Roaring Kitty one or whatever. Sure. Gets those people interested. But I don't think that really matters. Certainly not for Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is infinitely bigger than fucking GameStop. So GameStop, from a psychological perspective, can GameStop have a bit of an effect on investors' psychology and make them more bullish or bearish or take more risk or less risk? Sure. GME itself is a $9 billion company. Bitcoin's a $1.4 trillion asset. Why do I say that? Because what happens with meme coins is far more dependent on Bitcoin itself, right? Strong Bitcoin would be good for the memes. Much more important, in my opinion, than whether GME is up or down, right? Now, I think we go up more before we go down. And it's not really again, it's not about whether we're back or we're not back. I just think the market has been down for a while. It's compressed near the lows. If you look at some momentum indicators like RSI, Bitcoin did not go all the way back to 30 on the daily, but it has reset down to a level where the RSI is no longer weakening, right? It's no longer downtrending along with price. It's sideways. And this entire move reminds me a lot of Bitcoin in June of last year, where we had a rally into the top, we had a sell-off for a couple of months, low volatility. It was exactly 2 months. It was literally exactly 60 days from top to bottom. And the volatility really got compressed. And then BlackRock announced that they were going to be filing for an ETF. And that was the little burst of volatility that was needed. So we saw an expansion, right, from the RSI compressed, price compressed. We saw a little expansion all the way to the range highs, just a straight range play, 25 up to 31. Wasn't enough to sustain it beyond that because it was still summer. It was still a low volatility phase. And so Bitcoin went back to consolidation, eventually back to the lows, reaccumulated, and then went higher. A lot of similarities here in terms of time and structure and volatility. Topped out on the 14th of March. It's now the 14th of May. 2 months, exactly. Within that time, volatility has been compressing and declining. The RSI doing the same thing. Momentum decreasing. And we're obviously not going to get fucking BlackRock applying for another ETF of Bitcoin. But it wasn't the BlackRock ETF. It was just a catalyst. Catalyst is all that's needed. Catalyst for Bitcoin, I see, is most likely CPI tomorrow, inflation data. And I think that's going to be the mover. And I think the way Bitcoin's moving, it's more likely than not to go up. Right? More likely to go up than down. But from a trading perspective, which I'll talk more about in Trade of the Day, I don't see a reason to get super long here the day before CPI, which I never do, right? My plan is never to get long before an economic data release. Not from a high time frame perspective, right? If this is going to happen, which it might not, but if we're in a similar type of situation to June of last year, well then, let's just look at it. First of all, I'm already long 90% anyway. Right? Got Bitcoin, got a cash, got a little bit of Apu, a bit of Bowden, a bit of Trump. So I still have a lot of crypto, right? And if this move's going to happen, it's not going to obviously be the same, but if there's going to be a move through the range highs, it's going to first flip the bands, as it did. Very, very, very similar setups here, just technically, where Bitcoin was trading below the 50 EMA on the daily, below the bands red. It had taken the lows, came back inside, taken the lows, come back inside, and is compressing. And then there was a show of strength, a sign of strength here, as it managed to climb above the bands, consolidate, and break higher. Now that one was just three days straight up to the highs. This one probably moves a bit slower. I don't expect it to necessarily just go straight to the highs. But I said last night that it can. And this is it's a very conditional thing. When you have volatility decrease, people sell volatility. It's option sellers. They'll sell vol. And people will short because it's going down. Both of those are at risk of a squeeze. People who sell vol are at risk if volatility increases. People who short are at risk if price goes up. And if both of those happen concurrently and you see a spike of volatility, which for me kickstarts when Bitcoin breaks above 64, which is that important level, that's how it can rapidly move. I think it moves very quickly to 67 if that happens. And probably the momentum can then carry it all the way to the highs. I don't think that that'll equal new all-time high, breakout, massive move. Maybe it will, but I would lean towards no. I would lean towards something similar to this, where it takes the highs, drops back for a bit more consolidation. But in that case, I'll just sit, patient, watch, wait, and trade it if it happens, when it happens. Not try and anticipate it too much. Right? Now, meme coins are moving. The most notable is Pepe, which is it this one I'm looking at? No. Pepe hit all-time high. Pepe hit all-time high yesterday. I don't think Pepe is done. And I think there's a couple of paths Pepe can take. The 4-hour or 1-hour chart. I think it's a 1-hour chart. So far, it took the highs, came back inside, holding the 1-hour bands. So Pepe remains bullish. And I think if it's actually bullish, breakout we go again. It'll keep grinding up. It'll have a pullback. There'll be an all-time high retest, most likely. It'll hold there, and that'll be where Pepe will rally from. That's if it's bullish. If it's more of a, this was just a nice capitulation long, take profit at the highs, then I expect something like the red path. The red path is not contingent upon it going down, by the way. It's really just more so that the highs get touched off a couple of times and then price fails and falls back inside. But that one's very simple. So, first of all, expect the green path. Pepe has a tendency to move and move quite fast when it does move. So, I'm expecting Pepe to go higher. I don't have a trade set up, right? So, I'm not trading it. I was looking at Pepe and Popcat, both of them, and open positions and closed them again and woke up. The Bitcoin selling. And just the lack of any real setup leaves me to not want to take a position here. I'd much rather long this, flip the highs and retest, rather than longing up into the old all-time high resistance, which currently is resistance. So no interest from me there. You can't. You have to understand where you trade and where you don't. If you're trying to get long Pepe here because you've seen it pump, you're doing it wrong. Right? Because then you're FOMOing. You're trying to get long because you think it's moving. But it doesn't matter if a coin is up, down, sideways. You need to have your own process and then just look for that on whatever coin comes. If you're constantly trading like the flavor of the month or the flavor of the day in crypto, right, where you're chasing stuff because it's moving. You're chasing whiff a few weeks ago. Now you're chasing Pepe. And you see these big candles like it's doing right now, and it makes you feel so much FOMO. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to miss Pepe. You're not going to miss shit. Your job is not to fucking ape into this. Like, this is just such bad trading. If you're getting long Pepe here for any reason other than you have a system. But I don't know many systems that say buy after it fails a breakout of all-time high. The one that the blue belts know about, the false breakout, that hasn't triggered a signal yet. But they know how that one works. So, anyway, sort of digressing there. I think the market as a whole can go higher. Pepe leading that. Whiff is another weak one, right? Or one that has been weak. And I think it's a good example of the actual risk-taking sentiment, especially with regards to Solana ecosystem. So it's consolidating here. And I think, again, it probably squeezes higher. But there's so much for this to do to be bullish. I genuinely don't think with, from a cause and effect perspective, accumulation, I don't think it's ready to go up or even wants to go up or has strength to go up. Pepe shows clearly which is the strongest. Whiff is super weak. I think it's crowded. But I also don't think it goes down if the market stays like this. So I think with stuff like this, we probably have another week and something like that, right? Goes, takes out the highs, push up into resistance. If we rally up for a week or so, then we retrace back. That's where I can see some of these coins moving. A lot of people want to short now already. Like, you don't fucking do that. People love to short after a one-day pump. Like, oh, it was just a scam. Go, just back test. Go and look. How many times do you see a one-day pump that reverses? That just goes straight up, straight down. All the way. It doesn't. Almost never. Because even when it's a scam move, right? Where you have a move and then suddenly fucking Roaring Kitty comes back, oh, boom, comes back down. Like, oh, that was stupid, short that. No, because what it does, it climbs back up, takes the highs, and then it goes down. So often. This is the day where everyone gets excited, they all short. They get squeezed out, then the actual move happens. So if these things are going to be bearish, well, look at the coins that moved, right? Popcat is one, because obviously Roaring Kitty, name would suggest, is a cat-based persona. And crypto has meme coins named after cats. So obviously the cat coins were catching a bid. And Popcat looks okay. From its Binance list or Bybit listing level, pretty nice there. Listing pivot from the high on the pump. Holding nicely as a support resistance. But let's just look at the move, right? So it had a rally up based on the hype around the things yesterday. And from here, Is it going to go up or down or sideways? More likely than not, it's going to go up. Right? It's had a lengthy decline. 1, 2, 3 pushes. And it's ready to go in the opposite direction. At least up to resistance. Maybe even the new highs. And I don't think these type of coins are overly bullish. I don't think this setup is very bullish. I don't think that Popcat is going to go and just rip faces from here. But I do think it's a stupid place to short. And I do think it can very easily go higher. Even if it just goes like that and around. And it's sort of a head and shoulders type of move then. And it comes back down then for more accumulation or whatever. Or it manages to have some more strength and squeezes all the way to the highs and pulls back from there. And even if a higher low forms. That's your place to get long if you want to. Your place to get short is after it takes that and rejects. Like, the best play is to do fucking nothing. Understand what is a short-term catalyst and what is an actual lasting trend. The short-term catalyst was Roaring Kitty coming back yesterday, right? Tweeting, GameStop moved, people start to ape meme coins in a reflexive manner. Cool. We've seen this game before. But that's just one day. Whether there's follow-through or not will be dictated over the next day, 2 days, a week, couple of weeks, as to whether we actually have a trend. The trend will not be based on fucking Roaring Kitty, unless he starts shilling meme coins. It'll be based on, did these coins, did the market have enough of a consolidation to produce some kind of rally? And that's where you go back always to Bitcoin. Let me look at Bitcoin, if I can find a semi-clean chart. I'm just going to fucking wipe this one. Has Bitcoin had enough of a decline to have a rally? Yes. Right, it's tried to go below 60, it's come back inside. We've had that 2 months exactly of decline and sideways. We've a volatility compressing. For sure. Bitcoin can, even just with a scam pump, there's got to be enough energy in Bitcoin to just do that, even if it's going to go down. And that would be a few days is all that's needed for a lot of these alts, these memes, run to their highs, take out the highs, trap people, exit liquidity. That's all that matters. Or is it all gearing up to just go lower? Could be. And that's why you have to wait for some kind of actual directional trigger. Right? Not just, oh, this guy tweeted, so that means we're so back. It's not what it means. Right? Not what it means at all. It could be there's a million different things people don't even consider. He could have sold his account. So far he's just posted movie clips. He could have sold his account. It could literally be a hedge fund. Hedge funds who bought the account back, trying to trap people and bait people into buying GME. Or it could actually be him. None of it fucking matters. It really doesn't matter. The narrative about squeezing the hedge funds is played out. I don't think that look, I could be wrong, but I'm confident that hedge funds will not make the exact same mistake twice with the exact same stock. You saw this thing, oh, there's $1 billion of shorts liquidated yesterday. Okay. But that happens on Bitcoin every time there's a major move. Right? Of course there were some shorts that closed. But that's the same at all times. Also, totally unverified, the $1 billion number, totally unverified. But people are like, oh, this is it, we're starting again, it's going to... But it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same magnitude. What matters way more than this fucking Roaring Kitty guy is, does this shift the sentiment? Does this make people bullish for a bit? Risk on. And then other factors, which are far more important. Like, this to me is more important than anything the fucking Kitty has done. You notice that the M2 money supply change, rate of change, has flipped positive. Right? So for the first time since the start of last year, the rate of change from a year ago of money supply is positive, and it's M2 money supply, so it's not the entire liquidity, but it's a good start, and has been trending in that direction, and the expectation would be it's going to continue to trend higher. That's liquidity positive. That's more important. Global liquidity from last week grew by 510 billion. So there were some fears about global liquidity, going sideways and going down. We seem to have got through the worst of that, April and May. That seems to be ticking back up or moving into a more positive state. That's more bullish. The Fed's reverse repo, this is from the start of the year. The RRP, if this goes down, it's bullish for liquidity. It's good for asset prices, essentially. So it had been declining throughout the early part of the year. Then right around the top, right, Bitcoin topped on the 13th, 14th of March. RRP bottomed at that time, started rising. That's significant. It went from 413 to 594. That's almost 200 billion. That was not coming out of the RRP and into the markets, it was actually going into the RRP. Then we saw a drop off in April. But since April 15th, which again, right after the Bitcoin bottom, remember the war's fear was April 13th. So in this period, Bitcoin's gone down and sideways and went slightly lower. The RRP again has been rising. 327 up to 492. You want to see this start to run down again. If that starts to run down again, you're going to see the markets probably react well. And then you got the Treasury, which had peaked in April at over 900 billion, is down to 800. And the expectation of this is that over the months heading into the election, this will drop lower, which is equaling better liquidity conditions. All of that, to me, is much more of an explanation for any risk-on activity we get, rather than just a guy tweeting. The guy tweeting can be good for sentiment, can make people buy, not sell, stay in, hold, whatever. But I think you want to look at more of those factors. And then tomorrow with Bitcoin, CPI, the expectation for that. I'll talk about that more in tomorrow's one. As for today, don't know whether it's today or over the next few days or weeks, but I think we go up before we go down, for sure. I don't see anything to be bearish about here in the short term. I don't think shorting's a good idea. I think stuff has finally just breathed a bit of life in to be able to move up, and it doesn't tend to stop just right away. And the only thing, if there is going to be a sudden shift, it's going to be tomorrow in CPI. If we happen to get a really bad number, that could send the markets lower, for sure. Because the market's very inflation sensitive at the moment. Otherwise, I think we go up. GM.